Two.
Yes. My phone last night, this report, it says, do you want to prosecute him? But he didn't stop reading stuff. It's against the law. So you're trying to tell me that Tom doesn't like me?
I've just seen the Zoom picture. I'm just looking at
It's your halo, David.
is that what you call it?
Parties it could be sunset, isn't it? Now, yeah.
Well, just
Simon sends us apologies.
Oh, watch this.
Ollie. Simon rang me just as I was coming out. He sends us apologies. He can't make it.
Okay, thank you.
He was got to ask why because I was coming out the door.
Oh. How's that sound?
Yeah, I was like,
I think you've had
somebody comes to the meeting, but they're not part of the meeting as sort of a councillor. Do they get put down on the attendees?
In attendance. They get put down as in attendance. So you have.
Because Sue said she was here at the last meeting, but she's not on the minutes saying that she was here, that she actually came.
But that would have to be something that will be picked up when we go to the grant.
I'll admit her in.
I have to be honest, I said,
The screen.
I don't know.
Just.
So it's not picked up. It's an
Do you know
amendment
what?
that will be made when we go through the minutes.
Yeah.
Be noted that, and then it'll be amended, then it'll be, then the amended copy will be signed. Yes.
because it's right place as well.
Yes, it's 10 mil lower. I couldn't get two identical ones for the
So there's a space next to you if you want.
I did put your, Sue, I did put your note, your name tag application on to sit. You can sit where you want, but I did put it there so it's there if you need it.
Yeah. Try and tell them everyone to sit next to you.
Maybe spare agendas that you've got.
Okay.
But that's, there's also your name tag, you can move it.
It's so cold. Did you read it? They look nice.
Is it YouTube? It's Denise.
Sit here. See? Thomas.
What time is she? Yeah, there's 30, 20, 37 street.
Eventually, if I thought.
Something like that, 20 to 30
Sat down,
after you start streaming.
So that will
Trying to read the little.
tidy it up.
yes, it will. Not before.
Yes, my man.
I just need to put it on. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I never drink it.
Yeah, exactly. Same with my wine.
I'm saying my first day back at work for a fortnight.
Oh, is it?
So absolutely hanging, really tired.
You're not been there all.
I'm trying to get money. When Matthew comes out from it.
Really?
That's all right, Brian.
I will have my bits of root.
Just the glass, that'll do me, so.
And I said, but that's how it is.
You can't trust anybody.
It's not just, but my doctor's sort of sickness and painful, carry on working. And he said, well, yes and no. And I said, what do you mean, yes and no? And he said, well, give me pain. If there's any go with you, you can't work. Right. I went to how am I supposed to pay my mortgage?
Yeah.
And then he signed me off from that, so I was off for 2 weeks. 2 weeks without pay, only statutory sick pay, I think I get.
It's fine.
And yeah.
What would you
Finance always.
Yeah. I retreated.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
well, I'm just,
The protocol dictates.
She's gonna nudge me if I fall asleep.
Yeah, yeah.
As I said, I got completely off and sit in runs and leave it inside my car and just put it on. I stopped on the inside, but she knew the guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she gave his name and address. Yeah. Coronation Road. Nothing.
Oh.
thank you. Okay.
Thursday,
Oh,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks.
Yeah. Doctor signed me off for 2 weeks, wouldn't let me drive.
Jeff,
I had to walk everywhere.
What are you thinking, Colin?
I know there was an ambulance.
Medication he gave me.
There was an ambulance on the main road.
No, didn't have an ambulance. The guy just hit me and run.
Right.
Drove off. So I had a headache. So I took some paracetamol for.
Hmm.
Yes. These people who work with medicine and everything. Are the ones who are staff, they are.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I so showed you a 5 day. I've slept plenty. Went to work.
Well,
I went into my community hall. I did things. Okay.
yeah.
And then we got the following day and I just couldn't. Well, I was walking up with pain. Driving in the morning.
No, of course not.
I stopped them from.
I'm not. Nothing on the telly. There's not, is there? I'm going to challenge. There's nothing on.
But Simon's saying, Simon's not coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, Simon saying.
Right, good.
Connect the door, he can't miss it. But he has been waiting on me house. He didn't get his passport, Mike, so can't drive,
Chrissy?
and go shopping.
Right. Good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. Welcome to the meeting of the Asset and Committee. Welcome to member of the public, and welcome to those of you online. We can see Adrienne and others. Hello. Right, okay, public participation. Would you like to say something now, sir, or wait until the item? Oh, okay. So let me just answer. Gentleman there? Would you like to speak now, or would you like to wait until the item you're interested in? Okay, thank you. Adrian? Right,
Hello.
so we'll suspend standing orders and
Not now.
when at the time, yeah, okay, sorry. Adrian, yes.
Hi, the sound is appalling, actually, if you're listening online, just to let you know. Are you hearing me all right?
Yeah, you're fine.
Oh, well, that's all right then. Okay, hi everybody. It's really good to actually be able to come and do a Zoom a meeting or not actually have to leave my comfortable chair on a dark night. So I am glad that you've managed to get everything sorted. Inevitably, I want to talk about King George V. I don't think there'll be anybody who'll be surprised that I want to talk about King George V. I'm pleased there are no criticisms here at all. My concerns are process. And I think I am a member of the public. I don't understand what the process is now to get improvements in the park. You know, if we go back over the history since the May election, obviously the King George V working party or subcommittee was abolished, and everything was going to come to the asset management agenda. Now, I've gone back through the asset management agendas, and the King George V Park is very rarely on there. It was in October, but that was just a report from Hugh as to what had happened and what was, you know, what happened in the summer on the splash pad and the dog run. So I'm very confused to know what is actually happening. And how do the public access what is happening in the park? Because it never goes on an agenda. We were told it was going to be on an asset management agenda, but it wasn't in December. It isn't in February, and the next asset management meeting isn't till April, which I think is so. It won't have been on an agenda for 6 months, which is a very long time. Has the burnt bench ever been replaced? What's the sensory area plan now that there's a new council? They're in the old plan, and I'm not saying the old plan was right, but again, has there ever been any discussion in public on what is happening? Are there going to be picnic benches in the sensory area? Are there going to be picnic benches by the riverside? What are your events for the summer? Has the Sports Roadshow been actually been agreed? Prior to the pandemic, Sports Roadshow came in twice a week through the summer holidays. Families in Melksham are going to be struggling this summer with money. It's going to be very tight. We, as a town council, this town council had always decided to help support those families who perhaps can't afford to get away by giving them some really good opportunities within the park. Is that going to happen? What's happening on the Queen's Jubilee? Is a picnic going to be organised? The problem seems to be that there doesn't seem to be a mechanism for councillors to discuss what they want to see within the park. And so as I'm saying, it's process that I'm talking about. I mean, I gather that there is a really good plan for putting a cherry blossom arcade through the walkway, either side of the walkway from Lowbourne down to Waitrose, which is fully costed. What an amazing idea. Has anything happened on that? Has anything happened on the tree planting in the dog area? The dog area was brought up by Terry Welsh last February. It's gone forward, great, but it's a mess. It's a real mess down there. What's being done to plant the trees in order to absorb some of the extra water. There's a piece of play equipment which hasn't been replaced. It was taken out of service last August actually. It's now February. It can't go onto an agenda now until April. What are the plans? Do the kids of Melksham not have the right to have that piece of play equipment repaired? No repairs have been, or virtually no repairs have been done, and no replacement play equipment has been spent in the budget. what's the process which is going to happen? I'm asking you, Chair, whether or not you would be prepared to put a motion to council to reinstate the King George V playing field. It's the most important play area that we have in this town. And from what I can see is since May, what's the process to get things improved? I cannot see a process. I can't see a policy on play areas or on play equipment within the park. I can't see any policies about how to move the park forward. Certainly can't see any policies on the replacement of the picnic benches. I can't see any policies on tree planting or anything. And what is happening about the pavilion? Again, it's not come to any public sessions. I'm sure there are some discussions in private, but that's not what a town council should be about. It should be about actually doing things in the public domain, so that the residents, I get asked all the time. I walk through the park every single day. I'm always being asked about all these things. So as it was easy to get onto it, jump on a Zoom call, I thought I would. So can somebody just, I mean, obviously not now, but can the chair and the clerk write and explain to the members of the public, not me, I'm only here representing the members of the public, what is the process for the improvements going forward in the park? Everything seems to have stopped since May, when it was quite categorically assured to us the TFM team is determined to see continued improvements, not only in King George V Park, but also all our parks and play equipment across the town. We want to see every child have the access quality play equipment wherever they live. Let us be clear, nothing has been cancelled, nothing has been closed, and no facilities are being withdrawn. Well, no facilities, well, they have been withdrawn because the zip wire's gone. And it hasn't been replaced, and it reminds me of what Wiltshire Council's policy is, which is when a piece of play equipment doesn't work, just take it out of service, which is not which I don't believe is what the town council should be doing. But just to say, if you could let the public, let me know, and I will make certain that the public know what is the process that this town council will be going through to ensure that the improvements are happening in King George V. Whatever those improvements are, whether that's the old plan or whether you've got a new plan, but again, that hasn't been discussed in public. And while I'm on here, one other thing, everybody knows that Melksham has been absolutely blasted with graffiti recently. How are the town council going to sort this out? I know it's not your issue, but are you going to leave the skateboard park blasted in graffiti? Are you going to leave everything blasted in graffiti? And just wait for the weather to just let it go. Anyway, I'll leave you to ponder on that.
Thank you, Adrian. There are lots of points you've raised there. Yeah, there are lots of points you've raised. Obviously, very valid points. We will get back to you answering those points, and then hear back from you as to whether you feel everything's been addressed. But the fact you're asking them means we've got to take them seriously. So thank you for that contribution.
Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thanks. Right. Okay. Apology.
No.
Reinstate. Oh.
Is the member in attendance, the member of the public in attendance, not want to speak now, or anyone else? Because there's 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Yeah. Just double check.
Okay. Yes. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Anybody visiting us online who would like to speak? No. Okay.
Can I just ask? I think the member of the public's here for the donation for bench thing. Are we able to bring that?
Let's bring that forward. Yes, we can do that. Okay, so let's move on then. Apologies. We've got apologies from Simon.
Oh, right. He hasn't apologised today. He needs to.
He only rang me as I opened the door.
Tom Price.
Yes, Councillor Tom Price. Thank you. Right. Declarations of interest. Anybody, anything, is there anything anybody wants to declare that they haven't already done? No? Okay, let's move on to the minutes of the last meeting on 6th of December. Is there anything anybody wishes to raise in those minutes, or can we accept that? Sue?
Yeah. It gives
Councillor
the
Murphy.
councillors present, on the committee, and it gives the officers present, but it doesn't give the other councillors that were present.
Ah, okay.
Sue was present, but she's not going on there as being here.
I don't think that was really. It's 6th of December.
Right.
You've got it
Um,
as well.
so you're not on there.
So won't be, because they're not members of the committee,
No.
it would be in attendance.
Right, okay, we can make a
check.
note.
You can check, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep, we go to that. So,
Yeah, usually.
Angela?
That was where I was.
Oh, thanks.
Well, I'll check. I think John's as well. When we talk about the public toilets, the stories. I'll check.
Okay, so we're going to check those. You're happy with that, Kristen? Right. So we can accept,
Of the resolution,
okay?
subject to that, check.
So I propose from the chair that we accept the minutes subject to them. Oh, thank you. Subject to the amendments. So we're happy with that. All in favour, please? No?
But they're not on the
Not on the
committee.
committee,
Okay.
yeah.
No, that's fine. Right, thank you for that.
Can you sign them?
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the use of the roundhouse. This has come up many times, but now we've did this.
Yeah, we could bring
Sorry. So that,
the number of public.
okay, right, let's bring item 6 forward then. So if you,
Get the committee to agree that.
yep, does everybody agree that we bring
Yeah.
item 6? Thank you.
Yeah, just read. No, it's all right, as long as the committee's agreed.
Right. Okay, so if you'd like to introduce yourself, if you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Chair.
You need to suspend.
My
that.
name is
Sorry, I should have suspended standing orders.
We need a resolution for that.
All in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't second it.
Second.
If you're not on the committee, I'll settle it then.
All in favour? Thank you. Sorry about that.
Please second
Please.
that, sorry.
Yeah.
My name is David Roderick. I have lived in Melksham since 1977. And I'm still in the same property that I bought that year. What I'm looking at is trying to donate a bench in a specific space within the park, King George V Park. What I'd like to do is to have the bench, if you go down past, I think it's now called the pavilion, right? At least entering my day or something like that, and the thing. But if you go down through the gap in the wall towards the river, on the right-hand side, sorry, there is a bench. What I'd like to see is another bench on the left-hand side, because that position, you would have a look up the river. Now, COVID, to me, has brought a number of things forward. One, we're not immortal. Two, life does run out. 3, there's a lot of interest in nature I found I've gained in the process of having to spend, you're allowed out for 2 hours a day. That used to be, you had to make use of it. I get around on my feet or by bus or by other forms of public transport. That's my way of moving around. And I used to go down to that location and literally zone out and allow my mind to relax. It was interesting watching the swans have the cygnets and the ducks have the ducklings and everything else there. Melksham has something special there. It has something special in the form of the river. If I can just digress slightly.
Well, if I could just stop you a moment, just to make it absolutely clear. Now, we're talking about the Adventure Centre.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and you're talking about when you say the gap in the wall.
Yeah. It's a proper gate, it's a proper space.
Yes.
Going down through it.
So this is where the bridge starts.
No, the bridge is just further on round.
Right. This is on the green behind the wall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
It's where we were planning to put the benches back that Adrienne was just talking about.
Right. Okay. So sorry about that. I just wanted to clarify
Yes,
exactly for everybody here exactly the part where you've got a good view of the river and where the swans spend a lot of their time and so on. Right. Okay.
Now I'd like to sponsor a bench there.
Right.
There may be 2 brass plaques eventually. Well, one and then replaced by another. First is, I'd like to sit here. The second one, when I'm gone, David Roderick used to sit here. And I get over 2 days.
Right. Well, the first thing to do is thank you for that, for the offer you're making.
Yeah.
The detail obviously needs to be properly worked through and process followed.
There will have to be a policy and there will have to be scrutiny of what's said on the plaque.
Yeah.
The same as you do in a cemetery where it has to be signed off by an officer. That's just to make sure that it's all appropriate and doesn't offend anyone.
So,
Yeah, that's
So the
policy.
details on the plaque have got to be signed off.
It would have to be approved, yes.
Yeah.
so you have the honour of helping us start the process
Yes.
off. So thank you for that. Okay, we'd like you to leave your contact details with us. And then we can make contact and the details can be.
One other little criteria I'd like to offer is difference in the ability to pay within it. Well, does Melksham want a load of sponsored benches by big companies and everything else, having 5 or 6 benches all around the place? Or do they want it more, how can I say, from the individual, the people of Melksham, which they can then look at and say, yes, I could do that. So looking at some of the paperwork that Sue was kind enough to send on to me, that one which, what was it called? You said something, Hazelmere Parish Council one. That was a good starting point, and that would be a good starting point as regards the sponsorship for a single person. I suppose.
Thank you for asking that question. We will clarify these sort of things. Now you have started the ball rolling there, so thank you for that. Okay. Reinstate.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. You don't feel you have to sit through the rest of the meeting, but you might want to wait while we discuss this particular subject.
Discuss this point.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Okay, so we'll reinstate standing orders.
Yeah. No, that's fine. No,
Okay.
make it clear that you
Right, councillors.
I have a question. I appreciate your comments on the public wanting to sponsor individuals, but being a company as well in Melton for a lot of years, I'm sure there are a lot of companies and businesses would like the opportunity and not just to exclude businesses because they're businesses.
No, I'm not excluding them. I'm just saying that they should sponsor it at a higher level.
Okay. No, I'm just saying.
Sorry, sir.
So yeah, like businesses, I'm sure will be interested in this as well, definitely.
Okay, thank you, councillor Cook. Anybody else, anything? Councillor Mortimer?
Yeah, conversation with David that brought it to my light that we didn't have a policy for donation of a bench. So that's why I proposed a motion. An opportunity to provide seating in of an options, many parks and green spaces for seating along routes into town and other well-used destinations. Businesses to sponsor a bench or members of the public to contribute to a commemorative bench. I think David's point was that maybe that if it's an individual that's actually donating, I think he suggested that we had a different price, for than if it was a business. I don't think it was excluding business.
No, I don't know. I didn't mean it to exclude.
I just ask for clarification on that point, because if the town council are going to make the difference, because obviously the bench costs say £500 and it's got to be installed and that's got to be put on it. But the town council finding some of that cost. And
Well, I'll just make a little bit more of the.
yeah, because you see what I mean. If we're going to
Yeah.
charge businesses more than we are the public, I'm just
Yeah,
what
there
what's
might
the
be a
idea?
different class of bench, I don't know. But I expect a member of the public would expect to pay 600 or 700. There's more quality benches, like-
Right.
We do need more benches. Residents may be looking for ways to remember their loved ones, or even commemorating a birth or a wedding, something.
Right.
So I'm just going through my notes. Is that the right thing to do? or-
Yeah, so should we now pause and deal with the motion? or
I think
should
the
we
commission
discuss?
members need to be given the option to speak, because I haven't yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, sorry.
okay. So Gary came back straight after.
Yeah, on the types of benches, obviously there's a different cost, but also Hugh might be able to answer this. So the park benches all seem to be of a similar or the same type. The ones down Eastern Bypass look like the same type as the ones in the park. Are we going to conform with that? But also, are those benches recyclable? Because I'm not sure if, because I know they're metal on the outsides, and I'm not sure, but are we our policy? Does our policy need to change, or do we want to keep the same format? I like the format of what we've got, but I like the thought of we've got to start looking forward ecologically as well.
The benches are recyclable, they're recyclable plastic, and they're made of recyclable plastic, and the frames and supports are metal. So you could replace the slats, but you wouldn't need to
You will need
replace.
to change the outsides.
Yes.
Again, I would say, do we want to keep the same type of bench throughout?
I may suggest it might look odd if we have different benches.
Absolutely.
It looks nice if it's all neat and tidy and it looks more kempt. But I think what needs to happen here is officers need to go away and work up a policy, and then council or this committee decide, a pricing structure. And I think you need to keep that pricing structure the same for anybody. Doesn't seem right to have different ones for different people.
Yeah. That answers your.
It does, yeah.
Right. Councillor
Well,
Cromley.
The reason I'm thinking Sue was on about was that if it's a member of the public, they're just commemorating a birthday that's personal to them. But if it's a business, they're actually advertising, aren't they? So, I mean, if they're paying for advertising, that's different to just a commemorative. That's why I think Sue's idea of a different price would be, because they are getting something out of it, whereas the loved ones are just getting
That's
somewhere to
good.
visit. Yeah.
That's a good point. Thank you. Councillor Aids.
Jack's on the committee.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, councillor Fletcher.
Yeah, the type of bench, I know the town's got a lot of the recycled plastic benches. They just seem quite impersonal. If someone is donating, I think some wooden benches, they're lovely. They look nice, you know, and most of the donated benches which have plaques are wooden. And it would just make them stand out that little bit more as well and be less commercial.
So if they were the same style, but the material was different.
Yeah. It's one of these odd things. If you're donating something in memory of something or something or someone, cold plastic doesn't quite seem right.
If they were of the right, if they were timber, but the framework and everything else was standard, the appearance would be standard.
Yeah. Maybe it's just me being sentimental.
Well, no, I think that's a very good point.
You can get sustainable timber, can't you?
Councillor, are you come back?
I'm just going to come back now. Perhaps I think it was.
Take the burst your bubble, but I think the ones that the town council bought are so very vandal proof. Yeah, so ordinary wooden benches are not. But anyway, I was going to say before that discussion, but we're going to have to take this motion to full council, aren't we?
It's going to have to be a policy of the council.
Yeah.
We're going to have to work out how it's going to. I could suggest maybe wooden benches on the churchyard and the cemetery, because they tend to be respected more. That's to the point. But the recycled plastic, it is actually designed to look like wood, and it's got the town council crest on it. But maybe we could come up with a different design where the crest is, where it's sponsored by, the community.
But we need to discuss this.
Yeah.
Okay, but we got the start of a policy here, and then we get into the detail of the policy as a separate issue. Anybody? Councillor Cook, you're happy so far? Right. So, should we know if Councillor Holden?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think lovely idea. I think if it goes in, then are we discussing them paying full price for it? Because if that is the case, then even better, because we do need more around the town. My only question when writing up the policy would be that that sort of line being drawn somewhere. Because if everyone suddenly wants to donate a bench, then are we going to have enough locations to put those benches? And are we going to find that we're inundated with requests? That would be my only question and something to consider.
Right. Well, that's a good point. Whether it will get to that stage, but it could do. Yeah.
Where's the just request one? Right.
No,
Put two people's name on the bench and split the cost between them.
Okay, that's something else we need to take into account. So I guess the next stage is the motion. Sorry.
I don't know.
Councillor Mortimer, do you
Just saying that Hazelmere Parish Council, I said, just with those, they actually have an approval process for the application. And that's one of those, that would come.
Right.
Yes, for anybody that hasn't seen it, there's a good example from Hazelmere in the amongst the papers that to show how they dealt with this exact situation. So thank you for that. Now we want to now deal with Councillor Mortimer's motion. So do you want to restate it?
Yeah, the purpose of the motion is just an opportunity to provide seating in one of Melton's many parks and green spacing. We're also seating along routes into town. We are trying to get people to walk a bit more, and this might help them, especially with the shopping, to have a little rest on the way home. and businesses to sponsor a bench and members of the public to contribute to a commemorative bench. The current situation is we do need more benches. Residents may be looking for ways of remembering their loved ones, commemorating a birth or a wedding. Financial implications. We do need more street furniture, and this is one way of keeping the costs down. But obviously, the benches will need maintaining. This fits in with making the most of our green spaces and encouraging people to leave their cars at home and sit and watch the world go by. The crime and disorder, I suppose, is a risk of abuse or vandalism, but as Linda says, the ones that we have at the moment are hopefully vandal-free. Environment and biodiversity considerations are there by encouraging use of green spaces, and it's easier for people to get around on foot, knowing that they have a resting place. I didn't really know any safeguarding concerns. And I've just got a motion to put forward to the next full council meeting that we adopt a donate the bench policy, or consider it, should I say.
Right, thank you. And that's seconded by Councillor Lewis.
Hang on, Councillor
Sorry.
Minister, I can't propose it. And can I suggest, yeah, that's fine. This, to be honest, this committee's debated this,
Yeah.
obviously thinks it's a good idea. If we just put this back on council, we're going to have the same conversation. We're not going to move it forward. I
Yeah.
think this committee should resolve that. Officers
Yeah.
go away and work up a policy, and bring that back to council.
Right,
This is sent more,
Yeah.
so otherwise we're like 3 or 4 months and
Yep,
nothing's
agreed.
happened.
Nothing's happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're working on sponsorship of roundabouts. So we could probably incorporate the whole thing into one big document. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not planning it. I'm just thinking of moving it on, not
Yeah,
stalling it.
yes, yeah.
I'm just thinking.
So that is the revised
Proposal. Yeah.
proposal.
I propose that, and
Proposal.
Louisa seconded it.
Yep. You're happy with the revision? Right, all in favour? Yes.
Yeah.
Unanimous? Thank you for that. Right.
No, just leave it at that and I'll discuss it and then we'll.
Okay, right, well, thank you very much, sir. If you do feel free to leave unless
Hearing me.
That's great. We're not trying to get rid of you. You're welcome to stay. So that's
That's numbers. You've got it, Sue, anyway, haven't you?
Yeah, I'll pass it. Well,
That one knows me already.
yeah. The church.
You want? So, who's factor around here?
whoop,
The line.
Yeah, Christine. And the other detail would be someone else on the back here. Okay.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
thank you. Right, okay, we move on now to item 4, which is use of the roundhouse as a parcel drop-off and collection point. This was a motion presented by Councillor Althorp. And does everybody remember what that motion was? We now have a report from Clark, including the recommendations to be considered, and there are various attachments. So it's really a case of receiving the report. Does everybody have it and is happy that it's moved things on? Yeah. Okay.
there's recommendations in there.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the recommendations. A lot of work's gone into looking at the various options, but the thread running through them all is that arrangements required by the delivery companies in general is that it is a site that is actually an active manned retail outlet. In fact, that is the thread. There isn't an exception to that, is
I tried my best, I couldn't.
no, and the plant's been through all the plastics, Hermes, DPD, DHL, Yodel, Amazon through the lockers side of things. Well, that's already established and working, well, from my experience, working exceptionally well. But apart from that, all the others require a manned site. So it really is, it looks as if the roundhouse for this is not suitable. Now, is there do we agree that is a sort of final conclusion, or are we still looking? Does anybody want to contribute to the discussion on this?
Yeah, I agree with what the conclusions are with regard to the manned site, etc. And I think there are plenty of opportunities for parcel pick up and drop off in Melksham. Now it's the other recommendations is what we need to look for. Either asking the town or anyone and everyone really that we can for a use of that building, because we need to use it if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone will have a good idea, just finding that person.
Does everybody agree that is the way forward?
Absolutely, definitely.
Councillor Mortimer.
Linda has had contact with a member of the public.
Yes, in the report.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good idea to perhaps that.
So the report covers that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So are we happy to accept the report as the way forward?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I propose that,
Yeah.
Chair. Seconded by Councillor Cook. Everyone in favour? Okay, thank you for that. Right, draft climate strategy. That is, there are 6 pages on that, with everything put into categories. If we're talking about pages 25 to 30 in the text. Obviously, you'll see that there are some quick wins shown in green, and at the other end of the scale, the aspirational actions. So it's a case of approving this as a strategy. So I'll ask you.
Yeah, can I just give some background?
Yeah, please do.
Ask some assistance. The items in blue have either been come from the priority for people work that the town council has been working with, or transport ideas have come from Councillor Graham Ellis, who's actually joined us on Zoom.
Can you hear us, Councillor Ellis? Are you muted?
So I think members can either add that to the climate strategy, or you could let the priority for people continue working.
I can hear you, councillors. I was having trouble finding my unmute button there.
Just press the space bar twice.
There you are. No, I didn't know that.
Please listen.
Very useful.
The Environmental Climate Working Group are proposing to work through 3 major actions from the list at a time. So a little bit like the art project, where 3 things are chosen to work on. And they're going to start with tree and wildflower planting, which is a major project, work on a climate action day, and then a weekly series of environmental messaging is a 3rd action. And also some background. I've made an application to the Woodland Trust and to Tiny Forests. Both organisations are really keen to support the Town Council in trying to deliver both. There is grant funding available, and one of the Tiny or the Woodland Trust scheme could actually, I did have in mind to go in Dog Walking area at the bottom of King George. That we would have fairly well established trees to go in there. But there's also some other land that's being pursued alongside. It's not too far from Farmers Roundabout at the back of Avonside. That's a flood that floods, and that would lend itself to a really good ecological, environmental, open space. It can't be developed on, and I'm discussing it with the landowner right now, who's really keen to work with the Town Council. So there's some really good positive stuff in terms of climate action. And if we can get Tiny Forests or something from the Woodland Trust, the proposal would be that we dedicate either or both to the Queen's Jubilee this year. So we're really do it under the Queen's canopy. So we're really, going for what the Queen is like, her thoughts are on in terms of planting more trees and saving the environment. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that's all positive. But like I said, the 2 approaches to both those organisations, they're really keen to work with the Town Council, and that would be a great outcome, I think.
Right. So there's a lot of detail here. So if you've seen enough of what's been done so far, and I take it we're adopting it as a draft, so it's not set in stone.
I think this will be a document that will be kept up, looked at and reviewed almost on a daily or weekly basis, because things change. I mean, from the first iteration to this one, quite a lot's changed. I think what the committee might want to add is, when I suggested that the things in blue have come from priority people, or the transport have come from Councillor Graham Ellis, is whether they stay in the climate action plan, so that the Environment and Climate Working Group can work through some of the actions, or whether or not the priority people items are actually left with the priority for people working group to work on.
Right.
And it's something we could do at council, it's the committee.
If they're working on it, wouldn't it be better for them to continue working through it rather than just put everything in the
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's coordinated, because the people that are working on that are feeding into this and vice versa. So it's not.
Right. So that's what we would be approving this draft with the addition of Councillor Crandell's suggestion that it stays with the priority for people, that the items in blue do. So is everybody, should we go ahead on that basis? So I propose from the chair that we adopt this draft. Can I have a seconder? Okay. Councillor Crandell. Oh,
sorry.
No.
Councillor Crandell. Seconded.
On the site, that's where it is. I know. On the site.
And could I have an indication of all those in favour, please? Yeah, unanimous. Yes. Right, thank you for that.
Oh, can I also have, the committee, it would be nice if the committee approved the actions like the tree and wildflower planting is one of their major projects, the climate action day, sort of like work up a climate action day and the weekly series of environmental messaging. If this committee could approve that those are the first three, and then they'll probably come back with the next three once they've done that.
Just
That would be nice to get that through.
Because we've got a budget of, we've allowed 15,000, and I know there's some comment in there about that budget. Will that go towards those three projects initially, or are you just going to use the funding that you're trying to get from the woodland?
A bit of both, yeah.
Everybody happy with it on that basis? Yep, that was unanimous.
We didn't vote on what are the three projects.
Oh, yes,
so we're
yeah.
gonna just approve
I'll
that.
So we-
propose it.
Yep, and seconded by Andrew. Okay, all in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Right. We are now on the last item, the vote on the Bath Road toilets. So I'll call on you to talk us through this update.
Yeah, certainly. The paper I prepared covered both the toilets. Well, one we're currently operating, we're proposed to. Update on Bath Road is that we've had the contractor in. He's done most of the work to get 2 cubicles operating. The only things outstanding are the return of the lease from our solicitor with any queries, and to get some quotes in to repair the roof. We've got some of the tiles that we need to place on the roof. There's a few more required, but I don't think it's going to be onerous. We'll replace the guttering, also downpipes with protection to stop them being smashed up as they currently are at the moment. So we are pretty close now. We have power there, we have water, they flush, the 2 that we're going to open, and everything's pretty much working there. So we're quite close. Marketplace, sorry, do you want me to go on to?
No, I just wanted to say, when I read that you've done all this for £5,000, I thought, was that a misprint?
No,
it wasn't, so well done.
It's for real. We've managed to work with a magic with some spares we've come across.
Yeah.
I won't say any more than that. But yeah, the second sort of half of my.
So could I interrupt?
Yes.
Before you move on to the marketplace toilets.
Yeah.
You mentioned here that consideration needs to be given to replacing the defunct CCTV.
Yes.
I would say that was not just considered. I would say that's absolutely necessary, absolutely vital.
Put it on one of my recommendations.
You did put it on the recommendations. And because you mentioned that you mentioned that there's CCTV in the area, but obviously the actual building itself needs to be covered by those.
That's right.
That were there at the start.
Yeah, there's a dome camera above at the entrance to each cubicle, but they're old cameras. The lenses are clouded over, and they're analog, and probably won't give a very good picture. So I would recommend that we definitely replace those and do what CCTV does best, and that's reduce the fear of crime
and the damage to the to the toilets
and the surrounding area.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, please carry on. Jackie.
You say about the CCTV, if somebody did damage it and you had CCTV footage, can these people actually be prosecuted? Because people have had CCTV footage before and nothing's been done about it. Let's just say can't do anything.
It depends how good the evidence is, and the better the cameras, the better recognition of the individual. Generally, in a town, there are a certain group of individuals that are known to police that cause most of the trouble. And if it's one of those, then I'd say there's a good chance, but it doesn't happen all the time. And sometimes the evidence is not substantial enough to bring a prosecution.
If I could just add to that, that we've seen an example of where CCTV is effective and does result in a prosecution, and we found that over the arson attack on the benches. So it's not really not right to say nothing. That was a classic case of action happening and being backed up effectively and resulting in a prosecution and a conviction. So if the evidence is there, action will be taken. Councillor Crew.
Yeah, just with regard to the funds that have been saved, we're using those funds to provide the CCTV. Is that coming from the CCTV budget?
This is not town CCTV. This is property protection CCTV. Yeah.
I've sort of made a suggestion further down in the paper. I don't think it's going to be an onerous sum. I've done an estimate of about £3,000. And then the sort of moving on further down the paper, we recently had a demonstration of some eco loos that were attended by Colin and Claire. And the potential cost of them is about £15,000 each. They don't need to be connected to water or electricity. And you can place them pretty much anywhere. They're very popular in France. Unfortunately, there's not one in this country, so we wouldn't be able to go and see it. But on the flip side of that, we could be the first to have them in the UK.
Can I suggest a day trip?
Of course.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
A second.
I hate it.
They look fabulous. Yeah, let's be the first. That's my point. Because they look great.
I must say, Hugh says we can't see one. We have actually had fairly close to one.
We have.
It's pretty impressive.
So that's sort of the Bath Road situation. And then the marketplace, since we last met, we've replaced the ceiling in the disabled cubicle. We've got full LED lighting in all of the cubicles now, and we've got emergency lighting in all the cubicles. The jet wash unit has been repaired. I just need to get a key from MB Locksmiths to ID Verdi, and then they'll be able to jet the cubicles down every day. The outstanding bits and pieces are a bit of signage on the outside to inform people when they're open. There was a proposal but that we would maintain one open early into the morning, and that would be the disabled one, and then close off the male and the female at an earlier time. And we need to get some signage. And also there was a proposal to signpost drug users to the help that's available. Because we're never going to stop people taking them, but if they do want to listen, then we should start with them.
Lighting that you can use for drug users that they can't inject.
That used to be the case with the blue filter lighting. Yeah. Unfortunately, everyone's got a mobile phone these days, and they'll just use the torch on it, which is a shame. But yeah, we used to use those in the sports venues a lot.
Councillor Morton first, and then.
Thank you, Jack. I just wondered whether the disabled toilets, they're not used with the key, are they? I think members of the public would say it's the true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Hull.
Can you have a rough estimate date for Bath Road Marketplace reopening to public, or
Marketplace is already open and it's running, but Bath Road all depends on how quickly I can get roofers actually onto the roof, and the solicitor return the lease. But I would hope within a month. So sorry.
I just thought of something. On the back wall of Bath Road toilets, there is some graffiti. I'd like to suggest that maybe that back wall is boarded and we invite graffiti artists down to come and do something. It's not going to offend anyone. It looks back on the Avon, and that might take away some of the graffiti that's happening where it shouldn't be. Yeah. And it could also, what could happen is if it's on a board, it could be moved somewhere else. And, you know, if you invite it back, you have competition. Just a little idea.
Good one. Yes, I think that's great.
Yeah, it works because we're including, you know, graffiti artists, and they're being allowed to show their wares in a proper form.
Thanks.
So
Should be pizza.
Glenn, I do beg your pardon. We'll have to make a noise.
Go like that.
The front side.
The Bath Road toilet's obviously been closed for a very long time now. Are we going to actually put some form of signage on the front when they are open, letting people then know that they are open?
Yeah. Definitely.
We'll have a ribbon cut and everything.
I know.
Yeah.
I just like you to charge them. 20p to charge him.
Yes, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Howard.
So with the graffiti idea, I love that. Would be able to incorporate that? Just confirm we're doing art projects, is that right? Or with graffiti around the town? We'd be able to incorporate that. Yeah. That was maybe question.
Thank you. So, anybody else want to ask Hugh any questions? Toilets? No?
Happy with progress there? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think on that note, just thank you.
These wonderful eco-friendly ones, are they suitable for disabled?
Leave that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said that it was literally, there's not a step going up.
No, that's it.
And it's one moulded unit, the toilet bit.
I think the French ones there's two inside the one cubicle, is that right? I think you did say that, yeah. Because sometimes people like to cut to look, so there's plenty of room inside.
Just whatever, they'd be suitable for families as well, that would change.
I would have thought.
I would have thought so, but I'll check. Yeah. The only thing that the toilets don't deal with is nappies.
Yeah, you don't want people flushing them down as well.
No.
Because it's not the same kind of system that go into the sewage.
People will want to change their baby names.
Yeah.
I think
to be somewhere for them to put them.
yeah. The point Hugh made about it there not being another one in the country yet. I think an important point there is that we have an opportunity to actually be the first, and I think we can get some good publicity for the town from that.
Just on Sue's point as well, I think it's an addition, isn't it? So we'll still have Bath Road toilets to change nappies and such, and sometimes the adventure centre toilets we know, I believe. So there'll be plenty of opportunity, I'm sure.
I think people would probably find out.
That's what I thought, those were the ones up by the splash pad and things like that, and that's when children.
It will be more convenient from that point of view.
Yeah, I suppose if it's a sunny day, we can have the changing mats access out, so they've got with them.
Just that like the as well.
Right. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else,
You need to resolve on those recommendations.
Oh, sorry, I do. What was you? That was. So,
So, yeah, the recommendation is to use, I mean, there was 50,000 earmarked for reopening Bath Road, providing more toilets at King George. The 50k, we're just asking that is used to fund 2 eco units.
Yeah.
And then also to carry out the upgrade to the CCTV on Bath Road toilets. With both projects would come under the 50. Yeah, because we're looking at, yeah. So it is just to get, because it's a slight change to the original resolution.
but still within the.
Yeah,
still within
it's
the budget.
providing more than actually.
Yeah. So, propose that we accept these recommend,
8.1, 8.2.
yes. We accept these recommendations.
Yeah.
And move on with it. So,
Yeah.
from the chair, I propose.
Yeah. That's a bargain.
So your second.
I'll second it.
All in favour, then, please. Yep, unanimous. Over to you. Right, well, thank you very much. Meeting closed. Sorry. Hope you enjoyed your brief visit.
Yeah, why not? Just want to see what's going on. We want to see that.
And thank you for those of you watching online.